Bent by Knowledge podcast, where we will dig into what current research and the Bible actually have to say about exercise and good nutrition. Today, we have Stephanie Gipson on for our third time chatting. We're going to be talking about mindset with body image, which again is perfectly timed for this New Year's. But before we get into that, can you just shortly reintroduce yourself, Stephanie, and maybe how your experience is related to the topic that we're going to be talking about today?
So yes, I do have a private practice where I help a variety of different men and women, and we go through nutrition and exercise interventions. I do have a 9-to-5 where I do research with the military, which is also exciting that I can apply that what I do at work into my practice. But as far as body image goes, this is something that I've been implementing in my practice even when I was simply a personal trainer, because it has such a large impact on our society today. So I'm excited to talk about it and practical implications for you guys.
Yeah, perfect. Well, I mean, it's no surprise that body image is a huge problem today. And we're seeing, the scary part about it is that we're seeing that it's getting younger and younger. The onset of it is getting younger and younger. At age 13, it's estimated that about 53% of American girls are unhappy with their bodies. And this grows to 78% by the time that girls reach 17, which is crazy. And then by the time they're adults, a whopping 97% of women say they currently have body image issues. So of your female clients, or even male clients for that matter, because we know that it doesn't discriminate between sexes, about how many would you say struggle in the same way, if you could put a number on it?
Yeah, I would actually say all of them to some varying degree. I mean, I may have had one that I can think of in my past that she was just confident and headstrong and never was exposed to that type of experience. But for the most part, to some varying degree, even all my guys that I work with have had some degree of body image. And I like that you point out that it is getting worse. And something that I want to point out is that the construct of our society today that we have through technology and social media is something that we've never been exposed to. This is completely new. And so what we're seeing is we're seeing the best of everybody's lives through our screens, the social media. And this puts this false identity that we have to create that for ourselves, even for our everyday life. And we know most images are photoshopped, or people post their best pictures, but it affects our mentality so much, and we have to learn how to tackle it. And hopefully today, some of what we talk about can help you guys navigate everything in that regards.
Yeah, for sure. And what I want to really make sure I get through with our discussion today too is that professionals are not immune to the effects of body image issues. And in fact, like a behind the scenes look, and you can probably confirm this, is that most of the professionals, exercise fitness professionals that I deal with, have just as many problems with body image issues as normal people that aren't fitness professionals. But the thing is that we don't openly share that with our clients, which I would argue does more of a disservice than sharing it with them. Because what you're doing is setting them up for failure, thinking that you're perfect and you have no problems. And they have now this standard that they think they have to measure up to, that they'll never be able to measure up to. But if we're able to open up to them and say, hey, I'm struggling with the same things that you are, they can look at us with a complete different light. And so my story is pretty layered, and I'll go through like a really brief story of my story, and then maybe Stephanie, if you're comfortable, you can share yours too. But mine started in college. I never remember growing up and feeling like I had some kind of issue with my body. And I was always a bigger child, I was dense is what we'll call it. I was strong, and I got to college and I played softball in college out in Western PA towards Pittsburgh. And I got into a bad relationship, and that's where it started. So my junior year started to get sort of obsessed with, you might know about this too, is like the emergence of Shape magazine and all these like media blog outlets, and I would read them word for word. And I had a touch of OCD, so I would literally read them word for word. And I started to put this stuff into practice. So it started honestly as a way for me to learn about nutrition. I was becoming a bit obsessed with it, it was becoming my idol. And I remember I would serve myself the food that I would normally serve myself, and I would half it every time. And that's what I would eat. And so I thought that it was something that was healthy. And it was in the beginning. And then it got to a point where it was obsessive, because then I started to, on top of my softball practice, on top of my softball conditioning, I was doing workouts on my own, and I was restricting my calories probably more than half of what I should be restricting my calories. And so I went from a healthy, maybe 175 pounds to my most extreme, which was 135 pounds and 130, 135 pounds. And throughout that time, I was practicing the worst habits. It was I was going into my roommates' kitchen cabinets, and I was taking out their snacks, and I was eating their snacks but chewing them out and chewing them up and spitting them out. So I guess it would be classified as bulimia and to a certain degree. Um, and I was doing other things too, like I said, excessively restricting my calories, excessively working out. And so compared to a lot of people, I was justifying it because I was like, I can't be anorexic because I don't look like these traditional anorexic women, because I still have a ton of muscle and I'm still really cut. And so I kept feeding myself these lies, but it got worse and worse. And at a certain point, my roommates sat me down. They literally had an intervention with me. They said, I called your mom and dad. We're really worried about you. You need to make a change. And it really did spark this change in me. What was happening is that in the beginning, like I said, I was using it to learn about nutrition and exercise, because it literally started the my journey toward where I am today, which is kind of crazy to say. But to a certain point, it morphed into this source of control where I was putting myself above others. So I was judging people for not eating in the restrictive way that I was. I was judging people for not exercising in the way I was, or I was judging overweight and obese people. And it sounds awful because now I help those people, but it also gave me the heart to be able to help those people. But I was judging people for not being the way that I was, because it was, for me, it was a way for me to feel better about myself, because I could not stand myself.
Mhm.
And I didn't know how to deal with that. And at the same time, I was an Enneagram 7. So any kind of hurt that I felt, I was doing anything that I could to get rid of it. I didn't want to deal with, literally feel that hurt. So I would do things like over exercise or under eat or something like that that would make me not feel that. And so anyway, it got to a point where I finally started to get healthy and get on the rebound, but then I got on the complete opposite rebound. Like I rebounded hard and I gained a ton of weight and stuff. So um all in all, it's not something that you ever really get rid of, but that is my story from beginning to end. I did have to trim some fat, some bad relationships. Um yeah. And so I still struggle with it every day, which I'll talk about in a little bit, but that's like my brief version of my story with body image issues.
Thank you for sharing. I mean,
Yeah.
it's always good to open up. Like you said, professionals do need to open up, and so we don't have a perfect life either. I mean, we have our own struggles and our own detriments, and we battle them every day. So, yeah, thank you for sharing.
Oh yeah.
Mine started probably middle school. I had gone through a little bit more of a gaining weight stage and things like that. And I wore like oversized t-shirts and basketball shorts. Like that's all I wore 24/7 because that's what I was comfortable in. Um, but there were these specific instances where I was already self-conscious for whichever reason. I don't know where that derived from, but then when you get into school around kids that did call you names, that took it to just to a whole new level. And I don't know what day it caused it to turn, But there was a day where I was just like, I can't be made fun of anymore. I mean, people use the word "you're fat." I remember there was a yearbook that circulated and someone had wrote the word fugly over my name or over my face. That was the like absolute worst experience like an eighth grader could have, right? So I started doing research. I mean, the internet was still very new. I mean, I don't think I got a phone until I was in the ninth grade. So I don't even have a phone yet at this point. So it was literally on the desktop computer at home. I was just researching like how to lose weight and those things. And so it was little things like you said, cut your food in half. I wouldn't eat it all. You would eat until you wasn't full, but it didn't. It just transformed into this control thing. And I went from 160 to 170 pounds to 110 pounds, and I'm 5'8", and that was by my sophomore year in high school. So I was nothing. I was just little. I could have blown away in the wind, and it was. Some people praised me for losing weight, which again is that mental game that just made it so much harder. But then, of course, I had my friends that were concerned and my family that was concerned. We ended up going somewhere to get help to a therapist. Um, she was okay. She did go a little bit out of her scope and she wanted me to eat 3,000 calories right off the bat,
Oh,
like in one day. And for someone who had been struggling and had all these, bad habits already ingrained in my head, that's just not something that I struggle with. Like that was the worst thing that I could have done. And that led to more of a binging cycle for the next 2 years. And I remember there was this one day, um, my brother looked at me and he said, "Does this food have too many calories in it?" And I knew because I looked at the calories, I talked about calories, and I knew how that affected me. And I did not want that to affect him. So that day changed my life forever. So I was in college and that's when I got into exercise and nutrition, and that's where that journey started. And you know what? It didn't end there. I still struggle with it, but one thing I do want to point out is that going into the nutrition and fitness industry probably was not the best thing for me at the time. Because now, instead of having this construct of being skinny, I had this construct where I had to have six pack abs, or I had to have these muscles, or I had to have the perfect diet. So, again, I had to go through my own personal battles for it was probably 4 or 5 years until I finally, past 2 years, have probably been the best, I guess, balanced or in harmony I have been with myself in so long. And it just, I don't know, it's crazy how it just all transformed. And I don't regret any of it because it makes me the person I am today and the people I can help. But I think you're right. I don't talk about it. I don't tell my clients that I went through that stuff because it's hard, but I do need to open up about it because these these body image issues that we have, they derive from something else. And it wasn't my relationship with food. It was my relationship with my self-confidence. And when I started to figure that out, then that's when I got better. And so when we can figure out where the heart of the body image issues derive, that's when we can begin to make changes. It's not the direct relationship with food or exercise. That's part of it, but it's not the root cause. And if we don't tackle the root cause, then it's going to be a constant battle your entire life. And that's the last thing I want anyone to have because you lose memories, you lose friends, you lose a part of yourself and you're not present in the moment. And we've talked about in our other podcasts that being present in the moment with ourselves is the best way to build our habits. And if we can't do that with ourselves, then we're kind of stuck. So that
yeah.
is my story. Um, yeah, and
Yeah. Thank you
yeah.
for sharing. My goodness, you said so many things that I would love to touch on. But the first thing was the last thing that you said is when, and we've talked about this before, is that it is so important to find the heart of the issue. And for mine, it was in
Mhm.
the beginning, it was an obsession in controlling my environment. And at the end, it was a way for my ego to take over and for me to say that I'm better than somebody. But that was because I hated myself for it. And so, or I hated
Mhm.
myself. And so I was doing that to put myself above others. And for you, it might be different. But in anybody else's case, it's like the food issue, the exercise issue is just the result of the heart issue. It's not the main driver. Like the food isn't the one thing that we think about. It's the thing that we're trying to hide or whatever we're trying to do. So I love that you
Mhm.
said that. But what I also caught too when you were talking is environment is critical. You said that it really started when you were exposed to ugly kids in school, really bad kids in school. And you talked about how when you got to college and the exercise and nutrition, how that environment maybe made made it worse or it's all on your path, so it's all good, but it may have made it worse and changing your mindset in the negative way. And for me, my environment was a poor relationship. My environment was my exposure to all the media that was growing in that time. It was like the Jillian Michaels type of era and the Dr. Oz type of era. And so we'll talk about here in a second that environment is so critical. I mean, in scripture, it's whatever you put in your around you is going to affect you. Everything that you put around you is going to affect you. And if you're not a strong enough believer, a strong enough Christian, you don't have the way to be able to discern whether that's good or bad. And you're going to assimilate with that culture. But I also loved that you mentioned your brother. That was very, very touching. But I think it's great for the recovery process too, because I think you start to see the effect you have on other people. And I think that if we have the heart enough to realize that we do affect other people, we're going to be more likely to change. And I've mentioned before that in God's kingdom, the most important thing is that we love God and we love others. And so if we love others enough, the way that you loved your brother, you were like, I got to make a change. Like something's got to change. And that was your part of your turning point, it sounded like. And so we'll talk about that in a little bit too. But let us move into the questions. So the good thing about being exercise and nutrition professionals and going through body image issues is so beneficial for our clients because we can come at the situations with empathy. And I mean, my heart completely goes out to women who struggle because I get it. I still struggle every single day, and I don't think I'll ever completely master it. But I think God gifted me with this, you can call it a curse, so that I will forever know how to properly minister and counsel other women that have challenges like this. So, with that in mind, how do you initially emotionally approach women when they come to you with similar issues?
We take it step by step. This one's always tough, and it's never something that is fixed by speaking to them one time. I mean, if they come to me and it's how do I fix this? That is, it can't be fixed in one day. I mean, it took me years, and in my years, I hope to shorten for everybody else, but it's taking it step by step. So we do look at the direct relationship with food. We take a look at what's going on. Why do you think you have this emotional attachment to food or over exercising or whatever it may be? And then we slowly talk it out. We slowly tackle these issues. But one of the things that we want to establish is where it started. Normally, if we can find out where this started, we can again pinpoint where that root cause is, and then we can start to determine what to do with that root cause. So whether it be a relationship, an environment, a past event, and if I need to refer out, I absolutely will, because there is a fine line of counseling and then, of course, therapy. So there is a fine line there. But it's just making sure that within the time that we're working together, there is that construct of reestablishing yourself, because you are not your past, you are not your emotions, you are you. And it's really trying to dig down and find who you are so that we can reestablish your relationship with food and exercise.
Yeah, so that's the first thing to tackle is the heart of the issue or the root cause, the problem. Because I mean,
Mhm.
the stupid example, it's like when you're weeding your garden, if you don't pull from the root, you're not gonna eliminate the problem. And so if we're just trying to
Right.
pluck away the eat or the food and the exercise habits without looking at what caused it all, we're never going to resolve it and you're going to start seeing all these little cycles. So, yeah, I think that's a great place to
Mhm.
start. And I also know that a ton of the body images start at home. I know with my personal story, I can definitely find links to my home environment. I know my mom was
Mhm.
born in the era of dieting and diet pills and the low fat diet and just all this huge emergence of that stuff. And so I was when I was younger, I was just visually I was looking at it and watching it. And I don't know that at that point it really affected me. I just saw her, but I think psychologically it might have been ingraining stuff for later. And maybe it was the whole self-love thing more than it was the dietary practices and all that stuff. Cause I did witness my mom like just not loving her body, things of that nature. And so what advice do you have for mothers or women that mentor young girls in any capacity to prevent the negative effect that they can have on their daughter's body image mindset?
Yeah, absolutely. And then the first step in that is I think mothers and women need to learn to respect their bodies.
Mm.
You mentioned loving your body. I think you absolutely need to love it. But for I know in my experience, saying that I love my body was very hard because I would always still see these small flaws and insecurities. And so what I did is I learned to respect my body for what it did for me and what it allowed me to do and how far it's gotten me. So if we can respect our body enough to nourish it, to fuel it, to be kind to it, I think that is the absolute first thing that all women, mothers, daughters, anybody, any age can do. And then teach your daughters to respect their bodies. Because what we're doing is we're trying to build our body to this ideal image. And that's not realistic. And we're doing it through means that's very disrespectful to our bodies. We're not giving enough calories, we're over exercising, we're not resting, um, are mean to it, we nitpick it. And so, if we can learn to truly accept our bodies how they are and respect them, then that's going to start the process of actually loving your body and caring for your body. Now, I don't know if there is any practical way to reverse any damage already done, but what I do know is that you can actually start today and make that change today. But you have to really want it. That is something that I've learned is that you have to absolutely want to make the change. You can't say, I want to change. You have to want it from the inside. For example, that clicking image with my brother, I had for about 2 years, I've been trying to do it on my own and I kept doing it, but there were these relapses and binges and things like that. But it took something else, some sort of trigger or external route that caused that change for me. And I think if you are a mother, seeing your daughter and how she is looking at her body, and really take a look at how your daughter sees herself and how your daughter sees you, is a really big step to take.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. For sure. Um, Reversing the damage has got to be hard too because it does. It takes a lot to recognize that there's a problem, and I think that
Mhm.
some women, some mothers haven't mastered that yet. But when you do, I think you can do a lot to reverse any of the effect that you
Mhm.
had that you had. Um, so a lot of what we would consider body image issues today are women that think they are too big. But I will say that I'm also left with sort of a bitter taste in my mouth from the other end of the spectrum, which is when women celebrate being obese in an unhealthy way. It's really like grinded my gears. I'm not sure if you've ever seen this type of thing or to this effect, but I also think that this sort of celebrating obesity conveys the wrong image to girls the same way that restricting and being smaller can cause damage. Because no, it's not okay to be extremely overweight, not taking control of your diet and exercising, and then celebrating it. I full heartedly support curves and full body women because I mean, I'm a big girl myself. I'm 195 pounds at 5'6". I'm also really dense, but I exercise most days of the week and I'm generally selective about what I eat. My problem with this situation is that women celebrate the fact that they are completely sedentary and eat whatever they want. And when they do this, I believe they're doing just as much damage, like I mentioned. So
Mhm.
they're damaging the way that these young girls think and giving them permission to lead an unhealthy lifestyle because it's, quote, cool to be thick and unhealthy. But we know biblically that Romans 14:13 says, Therefore, let us rather decide never to put a stumbling block or hindrance in the way of any brother or in the way of a brother. Basically, what it's saying here is that these women are causing young girls to stumble. They're providing them a stumbling block, and we should never, ever do that. The fact of the matter is that
Mhm.
these women may have a heart issue, gluttony, sloth, pride, some kind of lack of stewardship of the body that God gave them. Can you talk to this end of the body image spectrum?
Yeah. This one's tough because this one is something that has me on like an emotional roller coaster throughout the years. When I first saw it, I was like this is like absolutely no. Like why is this a thing? Like this was something that caused me to be angry because it's something in health and nutrition. I'm trying to help people be healthy, and this is obviously not a healthy route to go. So I was physically angry when I would see these people be very proud of themselves for being, you know, 300, 400 pounds. And in reality, that I don't know where that's healthy or when that is ever healthy, even today.
Mm.
But something that I've kind of tackled, I guess, within myself as I looked more into it is I think the heart of the message is trying to tackle that need to be thin. And I understand that as a potential mission because they're trying to fight maybe diet culture, if you will, things like that. So I think the intention of that, I don't know if you want to call it a movement or culture, is necessarily bad, but I think it has construed it itself to the extreme end of the spectrum. I think there was supposed to be like a little happy point where it's okay to be, if you want to talk about BMI in the overweight section or the obese section, because we know BMI is a little bit inaccurate. And so those things don't necessarily mean you're unhealthy. However, it has turned into a very extreme scenario where people are becoming sedentary and just stuffing their face with very unhealthy food, and they say they accept their body. I just like someone battling with anorexia or bulimia, I don't think that this is them accepting their body. I think there's a deeper issue behind that, just as there are with eating disorders. And you can maybe construct it as a different type of eating disorder because being so large in that matter, it's painful. You hurt, there's extreme weight on your joints, very hard to breathe, very hard to sleep. And that's just all going to have this domino effect. So I don't accept their movement and I do not agree with it. But I do think there is a deeper issue behind the women that think it's okay. And I think that's something that also needs to be addressed.
Yeah, yeah. And I completely agree with you too. I struggle with it a lot too because I am a bigger girl. So I was like, yeah, let's celebrate big girls working out. But the thing is that it turned into this thing where it was, and let me just reiterate and clarify what I'm saying and what I actually personally believe. And I understand that this doesn't necessarily agree with everybody's belief. So let me just disclaim that. But what I do not think is right is that these women are overweight and obese, celebrating that, but still leading an unhealthy lifestyle. So they're still eating what they want. They're not exercising because it's giving these young girls the wrong image. What I think is completely okay, which is what I see on a regular basis at Orange Theory and other fitness venues, is that there are people that are just bigger bodied and they carry around more
Mhm.
fat, especially women like myself, but we're healthy and we can celebrate that. I think that there's a heart issue if you, yeah, like you said, if you say that you're obese and you're celebrating it, there might be something that you're trying to cover up. Or, like I said,
Mhm.
you might be struggling with a sin like gluttony and sloth and isolating yourself, but then trying to celebrate it to make yourself feel good. And so that definitely needs to be discussed because I have seen young girls, and this may sound really abrasive and I apologize in advance, but I've seen young girls that are morbidly obese or on their way to becoming morbidly obese and literally looking at themselves in the mirror and saying, "Ooh, I look good," type of thing. And any mom would celebrate that. They would be like, "Yeah, she thinks that she's got that body image going on, like she's confident in herself and all that stuff." But to what point does that get to because I know that a couple years down the line, she's going to struggle with diabetes. She's going to struggle with high blood pressure. She's going to struggle with finally starting like poor mental processing and things like that. And
Mhm.
we should not celebrate that on the front end. That should not be a thing. There should be somebody intervening on the front end, and mom is the first person that should be intervening. And so, yeah, I think that definitely needs to be addressed, because we typically think about body image on the other end of the spectrum, which is what I want to be thin, but there are problems on the other end that need to be addressed.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
so we
Well,
understand. Go ahead. Sorry.
no, no, I was just gonna say the healthy at every size movement specifically, that they actually don't accept being too thin, but they
Yeah.
accept being larger. So it's a very interesting hypocritical standpoint, because you can accept this size, but not when you're too thin either. So
Right. The
it's interesting.
standard should be, I accept anybody's body size if I check these boxes. If I work out or I'm physically active, we'll say, and if I eat
Mhm.
generally well. And if you say that
Yeah.
you are compliant with those things, those healthy behaviors and things like resting and all of that stuff, and your natural steady state weight is 100 pounds or 200 pounds, it should be celebrated. The problem is that you
Mhm.
celebrate any weight no matter what their behaviors are. And so I think that's my
Yeah.
problem with that movement. So,
Yeah. No, I
yeah,
agree.
interesting point. So I looked up here just recently. The National Eating Disorders Association, NEDA, gives 10 quick steps to positive body image, and I love them. So I would love to go down this list just really quick, rapid fire, and maybe talk about what you think about it. And a lot of the stuff we've already talked about, but
Mhm.
so appreciate all that your body can do. The first thing that I think about this is I have a bigger size body, but I can lift really heavy weights and I can sprint really hard and all of that stuff. So I think that's a really great first step. What do you think about that? Appreciate your body for all it can
Oh,
do.
it it's my absolute favorite, because that goes back to respecting your body. That's your first step. That's what you need to do. Yeah, there's nothing more I can add to it, because I love it and I think it's perfect. Well said.
Yeah. They also said keep a top 10 list of things you like about yourself. So not necessarily related to what you look like, but something to reflect back on when you might be feeling a little bit down. So that
Yeah,
was,
no, you should absolutely do that. It's been a client, I had a client text me every day something that she liked about herself, because every conversation was negative, everything that she did bad, because it's not even negative about her physical body, but negative about what she does on a daily basis. Like, she didn't feel successful. So having those positive constructs in your life goes further than just your body image. It goes to your confidence and your self-worth and your self-appreciation. So I love that.
yeah, it's good.
Absolutely.
We'll skip around here a little bit. Surround yourself with positive people. It's easier to feel good about yourself and your body when you're around others who are supportive and who recognize the importance of liking yourself just as you naturally are.
Yeah, no, that's true. And I've seen some things say there's false positivity out there, but I don't know. When you surround yourself with people that are if you surround yourself with people that are happy and talking about what they succeeded versus people who are complaining, that you change your mental state between which group you're in. And so I don't know about you guys. I want to be in the group of people talking about their personal successes, wins, cheering each other on. That's the group I want to be in. And I think that's what everybody should be in. So,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes. They also said shut down those voices in your head that tell you your body is not right or that you are a bad person. You can overpower those negative thoughts with positive ones.
Absolutely. Same thing with the people you surround yourself and writing down what you positive things about yourself. Yeah. That one's great. You're
Mhm.
not your emotions. You're
Yeah,
not your thoughts. Yeah, I love that one.
exactly. You'll love this one too. Become a critical reviewer of social media and media messages. Pay attention to the images, slogans, attitudes, anything that makes you feel bad about yourself. Um, what does it say? protest these messages, write a letter to the advertiser, or talk back to the image or message. It's a little strange. Anyway,
Oh,
review social media and what you're intaking.
yes. No, absolutely. Yeah, you have to control what you consume and what you accept into your mind. And I think that's important. Absolutely.
Yeah. And my personal favorite one in this list, this is the last one we'll go into, is use time and energy that you might have spent worrying about food calories, etc., to do something to help others. And
Oh.
I like thinking about this one too. I think I've mentioned this before, is that we're gifted these experiences to give to others. And so we should, if we're given something, give it away. And that might mean our story, it might be our experiences or our knowledge. We should be able to give it. What do you think about that?
I think that's wonderful. I don't think I've ever seen that like written down in a step. I love that because that goes back to what we've been talking about as an external motivator. When we're taking who we are, the foundation, the strength we've built, and expressing it outward. And that is, I don't know, when you give back, that's just no other feeling when you give back. People are happier when they give back to their community, to their family, to their work, to their family, whatever it may be. Um, I love that. I've never read that as part of a body step or in like a step process for body image or mindset, but I think that's fantastic. I love that.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's on the National Eating Disorder Association website,
Uh-huh.
Neta.
Yep. Nita.
Oh,
Yep.
awesome.
Yeah, it's great. But I do like getting to the spiritual part of it too. And just briefly, um, with the Christian part of it, is that there should be a couple things to help us be able to reorient our mind, to change our mindset about
Mhm.
body image too. And I think this list goes a little bit deeper than any of the other things that we've talked about, because it does. It gets to the spiritual part of it. So our bodies were never meant to be the focus. If you think about it, God
Mhm.
is definitely supposed to be the focus. And humans are the only creatures created in his image, meaning that we're supposed to be a reflection of him. However,
Mhm.
anything that is amazing, the way that he created our bodies, can also be turned into an idol, which is what we do on a regular basis. And an idol is anything that we place before God in our lives. So it's important for us to remember that God is supposed to be our focus and not our bodies. And we make our bodies our focus. We put ourselves before God. And then in that way, our body becomes the idol. Also,
Mhm.
our bodies are vehicles. So your physical structure was created to move you to do his will. And this means using it and treating it in a way that'll allow you to move for him. So, literally, his Holy Spirit is within us. Our body is the physical construct to move us around to do whatever he has for us to do. So, if he put us on this earth to raise up children, our physical body is supposed to carry us through that. So, literally, supposed to lift the child, supposed to nurse the child, to do all these things. And if you think about it in that way, you can be convicted to take care of your body and exercise and eat
Mhm.
well and do all those things. And lastly, our bodies are the temple of the Holy Spirit. And in the Old Testament, people went to the temple to meet with God. Your body is the very place now that you meet with God every day, because God has, instead of meeting you at the temple, put the Holy Spirit in you. So your body is the temple. In 1 Corinthians 6:19 through 20, the Apostle Paul said,
Mhm.
"Or do you not know that your body is a temple of the Holy Spirit within you, whom you have from God? You are not your own, for you were bought with a price. So glorify God in your body." But unlike the ancient temple, we don't need to spend an inordinate amount of time making sure everything is perfect, because bodies are external and not eternal, which is like the game changer for me. So our bodies are just an external
Mhm.
thing. They're not going to last forever. They were put here to house the Holy Spirit so that we can finish out the goal. And so you
Mhm.
just have to do a couple things. You have to guard your heart and mind, which is what we've been talking about even outside of the Christian context. And then it's really important to affirm the truth of God when these bad thoughts come your way. So for me, I love meditating on the fact that he literally knit me in my mom's womb. So when my mom was pregnant with
Mhm.
me, he was counting the hairs on my head and he was hand weaving me to make me the person I am today. And if I follow suit and take health seriously and take care of my body is exactly how he's supposed to create me.
Do you ever find the shift in the way they feel about their body when they start to accept, a spirit or a religion or anything like that?
So
Do you
yeah,
see that shift when you work with them? Yeah.
yeah, and I haven't worked with too many women, because I'm still developing my. I haven't worked with them. I'll say, um, in the Christian sense. Uh,
Mhm,
I'm still working on that myself, so I want to make sure that I maximize that. But I have seen in other areas not related to body image that when people come to Christ, when they know God and they accept Jesus as their savior, is that they've made changes that they've not been able to make their entire life. So I wouldn't put
mhm,
it past them to say that if I finally accept God, that I'm going to be able to make this life altering change that I've been struggling with my whole life. And for me, it's
mhm,
been a continuum. It wasn't like at one day I finally realized it. It was that it's this constant work. Every single day you put in, every single day you have to make sure that you're doing your affirmations and you're reminding yourself that God's in control. And
mhm.
it goes from one thing to another thing in years. So it's a lifelong thing. So, finally, to the good stuff. Being a nutrition and exercise professional and being a different size than the rest, honestly, I've never gotten a direct comment. It's normally just my own self-consciousness, but I bet that people have said things in the past about my size. Um, what have you personally heard from others that assume you should look a different way?
Yeah, I've heard it all because I have been on that super small side, and now I'm here where I am now. I'm, 5'8", 170 pounds, and I'm happy and I'm strong, but I've heard that my shoulders are too big. I've also been said, "Hey, you've gained weight, you should take your own advice," because I'm a registered dietitian. I've been called big boned, my shoulder I should not work out as much, I don't have abs, I shouldn't be trusted as a personal trainer. And it's crazy that I've been told these 3 things through social media or even in person while I was a personal trainer at a gym, and it just so confusing because I've heard it all and I'm like, I don't know what I want, and so that's when I began respecting myself. But I will say one of my personal favorites is that someone called me slim thick, which is a running joke that my fiance have. It's a little happy middle, I suppose, but I guess it depends on the perspective of the person. But as far as I mean, like I said, I've heard it all. There's not much else I could say, and I I don't accept it all. I've learned to kind of put up this wall, if you will, or this filter. Some of it still hurts, but I've learned to how to process when people do say it and not taking it so personally because it does not affect myself nor my core values, what that person thinks of me or what they call me. So,
Right,
yeah.
exactly, and I think that you said it that last part that you said really resonates with me too, because I always think when people say anything negative to anybody, or when they say something negative to me, not even thinking about
Mhm,
body image, I'm like in my head, I'm like, "But I'm not doing this for you." Because for a Christian heart, you're doing everything that you do for God, and so the way that I am, my physical body, what I'm doing, but it's not for you. Like, I always look at them perplexed. I'm like, "But what do you even matter? Like, does your thought even matter?" I don't say it, but that's what I'm thinking because I'm so oriented upward rather than outward.
mhm,
And so it's important to know, like you said, like that doesn't actually shouldn't actually affect me. It still hurts because you have a history with it for
mhm,
sure, but you check yourself and you move forward.
mhm.
So you've can you just say again how you've learned to dust it off and reset your mindset in those situations if it does end up hurting you?
Yeah. So it, like I said, I'm still working on the confidence. I still have some insecurities and things like that. And being an Enneagram 1, I strive to have this like perfectionism in me. So I always have this little voice in my head that's always saying that I'm not good enough or things like that. And it hurts, especially when it comes from someone outward, because they see directly my work and their negative comment is affecting what I strive to do so well at. And if I think I'm doing well, like I said, I already have a hard time thinking I do well enough. So if I do something well, like practicing my coaching practice, or even exercise or my knowledge on nutrition, I feel like I do that really well. I'm very confident in this area. But if they kind of hit me somewhere there, I have to take a step back because I have to look at it and think to myself, well, why did they say that to me? Why was that necessary for them to say to me? Because if it was to make me feel bad, I'm not going to give them that satisfaction. But I also think there has to be something going on in that person's heart for them to need or want to say something negative to something else. So that allows me to almost take like a step back or third party view of, okay, they said this. I don't accept it. It doesn't attach to my core values. There is something else going on in their life. I don't know what it is, and I wish them the best. And I hope they can figure it out. So it's just taking a step back and looking at it a little bit differently so that I don't always feel personally attacked, and I kind of take it from their perspective, or try to at least.
Yeah. Yeah. That's really important. And especially in maintaining that relationship too. Because if you do get offended by it and maybe you snap back with something or you say something out of the ordinary, you could really hurt that relationship or whatever relationship it is and whatever potential it has to
Mhm.
grow. And so if you step back with an understanding heart and say, maybe they do have some issues and I can help out with that, and you approach it that way, I think that you can maintain that relationship. So I like that you said that.
Mhm.
It also makes me so happy to see that strong is the new skinny. There are so many fitness and nutrition professionals like us that have a different shape than the norm. Because really, what does shape have to do with it anyway? After all, was the best NFL coach a good football player himself? I always like to say that because not necessarily. I think about some of the NFL coaches, they're really good coaches, but were never really good players. Even though they weren't great players, they know how to coach the heck out of a football game. So sometimes I get so frustrated with the comments from people when they say, I can't take advice from a coach or dietitian that's overweight, because in my head, I'm like, there's absolutely no relationship between the knowledge that you have and the size of your body. And
Mhm.
in fact, I do know some coaches that are completely cut up, like 10-pack abs, that may not be the most knowledgeable. So how have you personally gotten over that barrier?
When I guess there's several different ways I have. So if someone is coming at me and they told me that to my face or they make a statement like that, I question them. I question why they think that statement is valid. I asked them why their body size is a direct respect of their knowledge, because it's not. No matter what size or shape or what you look like, that does not dictate your knowledge or your coaching abilities. So I question that to that person. And my goal from doing that is not to attack them, but it's to maybe hopefully open their eyes to seeing that what's in front of them is not going to dictate someone's inside perspective or coaching abilities or anything like that. Now, on a personal level, I it's taken time, but what I've done is that I have shown people what I am capable of. I'm trying to start a blog, but I do the social media thing. It's what I talk about. I talk about nutrition, exercise all the time because I love it, and not necessarily to always help people, but I'm always out there saying, "Hey, did you know your body can do this kind of thing?" And people are like, I didn't know you knew so much about the body and nutrition and exercise." And so it's just letting people know that I have the ability and I have the skills to help them, and it is probably a little bit of a longer process. It's not switching someone's opinion right off the bat, but I'm building my authority and my authenticity in myself and my knowledge by just spreading my message. And it's going to be one day at a time or one person at a time. But if that's what it takes, it's what I'll do, because there's nothing else in the world I would rather be doing. When I say I love what I do, I absolutely love what I do. I would stay up till midnight helping a client out. I
Mhm.
text them all the time, any time of the day. I mean, I am here for my clients because this is what I love to do and I know that I can help them. And the more I can express that outward, um, the better. And like I said, it's not a fast process. It's slow, but one person at a time. That's all I need. All I ask for.
Yeah, yeah. And I like what you said. I've recently been plagued with the whole lie that I'm telling myself where I need to affect so many people. Like I need to get this stuff out to the masses. And sort of like you're saying, it's more of a slow process. And along the way, you affect one person at a time or this small group of people at a
Mhm.
time, and you really end up making a difference. So I find that you can your progress can really be hindered if you think too massive. And
Mhm.
when when you really should focus on the what you're doing right now and affecting people on a smaller scale, and then it can grow into something.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So are there any other strong as the new skinny exercise and nutrition professionals that you follow yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of my favorites is probably gonna be Meg Squats. I knew her back when, like, bodybuilding.com was the only source of exercise information you can get. She was one of, like, their winners, but her goal is to put a barbell in every woman's hand and help them to be strong. I love her message. Um, Alyssa Olenek, her social media is Little Liss Fitness. She is all about being strong and fitness in general versus being skinny, being thin, or having a six pack abs, which I love. Samantha Joelle, she has a coaching practice herself. She's went through her own personal journeys as far as disordered eating goes, and she expresses that outwardly. So I love her message. And then some others are Annie Miller, Tia Claire Toomey, Brooke Ince, Danielle Hawsey are just to name a few, but it's pretty much my whole social media is mostly strong women lifting heavy weights. So I could probably name off 100 others, but those are probably my top ones.
Yeah, and what I love about that list and all those people and anybody that supports this whole strong is the new skinny thing is that their primary focus is to help women surround themselves with a community of other women to support their cause. And so their cause is, we body composition, body image is not necessarily our forefront thought. And in fact, we're
Mhm.
trying to debunk that whole myth that you need to have a six pack abs to be healthy or to be strong. And so surrounding yourself with others that go through the same experience or believe in the same thing is probably one of the most helpful things to starting your journey on this body
Mhm.
image mindset changing path. And so, do you have any practical tips on surrounding yourself with like-minded women or women that have gone through a similar experience?
Yeah. It's You have to seek it first. It won't just pop up, because what's going to pop up is your basic fitness industry things, fitness models, and those types of things. So it does take time to actively seek out. Um, but once you find one person, they're all in this like little community, and it just kind of explodes from there. So start with one person, find one person with their mission of being strong, being healthy versus being thin and having a six pack abs, and then go from there, because it's we're attracted by like-minded people. So when we find one person, even though that first person may be hard to find, it just like explodes after that. So find that
Yeah.
one person and then go from there.
And then how do you so you follow these women or these people that you like. and that believe
Mhm.
in the same things that you believe. Do you as a professional interact with these women, or do you have any tips on how to feel like you're part of this community?
Yeah. So one thing about I love and also kind of don't like is social media is supposed to be social. And I was guilty for this for a long time. I would just scroll and like or something. But I got into the habit of actually interacting with these people, whether it be in their comments or on their blog, wherever it may be. And most of these people are the nicest people I've ever met. Like they respond to me, and it may be a couple days because some of them have bigger followings, some people have smaller. So it depends on how big their community is. But 9 times out of 10, they will take the time and actually respond to you, will actually answer questions if you have any. I think the biggest thing is make sure you respect their time, their atmosphere, and they'll respect you. But yeah, be use social media to be social. Don't use it just to look at things. And once you do that, you start to create more of that community feeling, which I love. And the more you talk to these people, then I have gotten of, well, I'm going to be in this area. Do you want to meet up? That's happened once. I'm not going to say it's happened all the time, but so you can actually start to meet these people. And that was recent. So if you start by communicating and being social, then you'll kind of lend that hand or broaden your scope as far as that community goes, because now you are a part of that community because now you're interacting and engaging.
Yeah, and you know what's so funny that you said that, because I've recently had that awakening, if you will, is that just like you said, social media is designed to be social, and I swore off social
Mhm,
media for the longest time until I started to develop the idea behind this brand, because
mhm,
I was looking at social media and I was experiencing social media in the negative way. So I was like, I'm gonna purge social
mhm,
media. I don't really like it. And then when I got back into it, one of the biggest ways to build your brand is to be interactive. But at the same time, that's the best way, like you just said, to really work on your community and your support in things that you go through, like body image issues. So like
mhm.
if one of the women that you follow posts something about disordered eating and it really resonates with you, comment on that post or maybe share a tidbit of your experience, because just like what I mentioned before, you being a conduit, your experience, your knowledge is supposed to go outward. And so if I'm sharing and I'm being social on social media like this platform is meant to be, then that'll help me interact with that community. It'll help me develop my community, and it might also help me minister to other women in similar situations. And so that I just love that you said that, because I think people forget about that. We go on as a consumer, we'll call it. So you go on social media, you
Mhm,
scroll social media as a consumer, you like what you like, you take it in for yourself, but you don't ever give and interact. And so I think that's definitely
mhm.
something that we can take out of your book, Stephanie, is use social media as a social media platform, to develop that.
Yeah.
So, lastly, do you have any advice on what someone can do today to start changing their mindset about body image? Like the one thing that you would tell somebody, elevator pitch it.
You asked me this on the last two, so I was trying to mentally prepare for this one. And it's funny when you went through the Netta step list, because I was going to say every day write down something that you love about yourself. Not necessarily love about yourself, but everything that you appreciate that your body can do. It doesn't even have to be physical. It could be your knowledge or your heart, your kindness, anything about your character. Just every day write something new that you love about yourself, and you'll start to slowly see that mental shift begin to happen. And that respect, that love for your body will slowly start to develop. But starting by writing just one thing that you love about yourself is the first step.
Yeah, I like that, because I mean, back in the day before electronics and all that stuff were a thing, I mean, we used to journal. You used to like have your own little diary, and it was your way to express yourself
Yeah.
and tell your story and all that and write good things.
Mhm.
And I think we've gotten away from that. So I think pen to paper and yeah, writing down something good can really start to change that mindset. But
Mhm.
Stephanie, I loved having these conversations with you, and I would love to have you back on for other episodes and other interviews. So I definitely thank you. And I will in the show notes put all the links for Stephanie's social media so you can follow her and maybe see some of the women that she follows, and continue the conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me. I've enjoyed it.
Yeah, good.